It's time to stop swallowing that blue pill of corporate manipulation and remove the blindfold to a world not fabricated and mind controlled by the media.
Enter a world of the twisted and deformed.
Step into the light. Discover the truth. It's time for a reality check.
Reality check. Reality check. Reality check. This isn't something you need to be afraid of.
Now, two of the most controversial views of the paranormal as well as conspiracies you'll ever hear. The hosts of Reality Check, Jessica Johns and Joey Mirabella.
All right, what's up, everybody? I'm Jessica Johns, sitting here with my awesome co-host, Joey Mirabella.
Hello, listeners.
Tonight is another special, kind of crazy, mind-blowing episode. We're going to be discussing Prince and his untimely death, but there's a lot of things that most people don't know, and we're going to get into, you know, some Illuminati stuff and possible like drug overdose and like just different rumors. So I'm going to say this.
Keep it going, Jill. I know.
All right. I've been planning this all day. Submitted for the approval of the Reality Check Society.
Ooh, I call this story.
I call this show the tale or the truth behind the death of Prince.
Ooh, what is that? What does that come from, Jess? For most people most people probably won't even know, honestly.
I know. I'd actually
That's
made that joke
thing.
to a couple people at work and nobody knew about it and it made me sad. Okay, so getting right into it.
Well, you should probably tell everybody what it was. It's
sorry.
from Are You Afraid of the Dark? It was an old Nickelodeon show.
Oh yeah.
But why did you?
Because Crystal, my best friend Crystal, compared Reality Check to the Midnight Society, and I thought that was really awesome because that was like the greatest Nickelodeon show ever. A lot of stars got their start on that show, by the way. Joanna Garcia and the dude that Yeah,
some of them
just
did.
a couple,
some.
but anyway,
some didn't make it very far.
No.
So.
Anyway, okay. So, am I doing the Joey Mirabella background info today?
Well, I mean, you said you wanted to do a couple of things.
Okay.
So I thought I may give you just a couple of minutes on that if you want. Or a minute.
All right. Well, okay. So a little bit of background on Prince. He was born Prince Rogers Nelson on June 7th, 1958 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He signed with Warner Brothers at the age of 18, released his debut album in 1978, and in 1979 his album Prince went platinum and his success continued from there. But in 1990 he got into a contractual battle with Warner Brothers, and in 1993 that's when he changed his name to that infamous love, quote, love symbol. And then he released 5 records between 1994 and 1996 with Arista Records, and then in 2000 he changed his name back to Prince and then released 16 more albums after that. He played a lot of instruments. Aside from singing, he played a lot of instruments. Like, he played guitar, he played bass guitar, keyboard, and drums. And, you know, he won a bunch of awards, a lot of Grammys, a Golden Globe, and the Academy Award for Purple Rain. And he was inducted into the, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2004. And he was ranked number 27 on the Rolling Stone list of 100 greatest artists, the most influential artists of the rock and roll era. So he was a very talented and successful musician.
The other king of pop, I'd say, right next to MJ.
Right.
Which we will mention tonight at some point.
And I'm sure we'll probably end up, doing a show about Michael Jackson too.
We owe it to him.
Yeah,
we owe it to him. But yeah, no, I mean, there were so many. As soon as Prince died, I mean, immediately, it's almost instantaneous now how quickly all these ideas come up about someone's death and conspiracies, and you have to just start thinking these are not all coincidences. This stuff doesn't just jump out immediately. People aren't just making a bunch of crap up. You have to listen to everything. You have to be a skeptic. You have to listen to every side of every story. You can't just believe what's thrown in your face. Okay, so what are we hearing in the press? What did the press tell us in the last few weeks? Well, we heard a lot about prescription painkillers found in Prince's possession in his home after he died. He was found in an elevator in his home studio complex in Paisley Park. His sister said he had no will. Apparently, his living sister, which is Tyka Nelson is her name, she said there's no will, which in itself is pretty bizarre.
George Lopez, the comedian, was really good friends with him, and he and he's,
Interesting. I didn't
yeah,
know
and
that.
so he's helping out Prince's sister like financially to like go through the courts and do different
Interesting.
things.
There's quite a bit of people actually trying to help, believe it or not, on this whole struggle for his estate against, because they don't want the government to acquire it, but that's the big fight here, is because they're trying to acquire it.
Right.
There's a
Well-
lot of people involved in trying to pull the other way, the opposite direction against, so that to work in favor of Prince's family, so that they don't lose the rights to this, which is pretty interesting. What are you gonna say, Jeff?
Well, no, I was gonna kind of like go talk about like the week before he died, like leading up to his death.
Yeah.
Because so Prince showed up to perform at the Fox Theater in Atlanta whoop, whoop, on April 14th, but that show had actually been postponed from April 7th, and he still wasn't feeling well, but he performed anyway. But every other show, like I guess before Atlanta, he did Toronto, and he hosted like an after party at the clubs after every one of those shows. But after Atlanta, like he just wasn't feeling good, so he didn't do an after party. He went straight to the airport, and then at like 1:00 in the morning, there was an emergency call from his jet, and they ended up landing less than an hour from Minneapolis. And the next night, on April 16th, he held a dance party at his Paisley Park compound. And attendees that were there had said that he seemed frail, but he was still in good spirits. But I mean, he'd been diagnosed with the flu. But
yeah, well, this is another one of those rumors that were going around that whether or not it's true, I guess we're not going to know just yet. But there was the rumor that he had HIV going around.
Oh yeah, I heard that
AIDS.
too.
That's never actually been proven. They said he was
No.
diagnosed in the 90s with HIV. Now they're saying that.
Right. Yeah, it's coming out now. But
yeah, I mean, he had HIV in the 90s, and then in the last 6 months, it progressed to AIDS and slowly diminished him. But his health didn't really start to noticeably diminish until the last couple of weeks. You don't just suddenly die from AIDS. You're dying for a while. You're in the hospital. It's not the kind of thing where you just drop dead in an elevator. So then you have the AIDS theory. Then you have the theory of the painkillers, that he was taking the painkillers because he was in pain because he was suffering from AIDS. But then someone was saying that back in the day he was taking painkillers because he used to jump around on stage a lot, so he had a lot of muscle pain. And but it's interesting because I haven't found one of his friends named Robbie Pastor and his personal assistant from 1984 to 1992 says he never knew of any opiate or any cocaine problem, and that there's no way you can do both of those and still be as driven as Prince was. And he was an extremely driven person. And
if you're on opiates, you can't sing and dance and perform that way.
Well, you can, just not very well. I mean, if you look at anyone who's totally screwed up on, when they're on stage, I mean, Amy Winehouse, extremely talented, amazing, but look how she used to perform on stage in her condition.
Yeah.
But it wasn't about that. It was about the kind of person, the kind of people they are. And Prince was actually genuinely a very good-hearted person. He was very spiritual. He preached a lot about love, a lot about being good to people, and he was just, and that's what's interesting, is why does someone that talks about so many good things die so young?
And he's never been a part of any scandals.
He was very private,
right.
very private.
I mean, aside from the Warner Brothers battle, but again,
which is extremely significant,
right?
And then one of the other things was he had his personal chef his name was Ray Roberts. He cooked for him for 3 straight years, and then he said in the last couple of weeks he noticed changes in his diet. Suddenly he said he was eating less, he was drinking less water, and he looked like he was losing weight, which is why people said he was noticeably frail.
Well, he was drinking a lot of fresh juices and smoothies because he was getting he had a lot of stomach and throat ailments. But he lived in Minnesota and it's cold winter, so having a stomach ache and a sore throat all the time it's not really uncommon in that area. In that part of the world, part of the country, I guess. No,
it's not. But you also your health doesn't just drop.
Right. You don't
instantly
just
like that.
You don't just die of the flu out of nowhere like that.
No. And they said he was asking for meals that were easier to digest, and he was fighting off, like you were saying, waves of sore throat, tons of upset stomachs. He wasn't himself the last month or two. He didn't eat meat ever. He was a vegan, which is another thing. I mean, he was a vegan, so his body was pretty much as clean as possible, which is another part where the opiates.
Right, I was just going to ask you. So why,
Yeah, and you're a Jehovah's Witness. You don't take. He was a devout, hardcore, spiritual Jehovah's Witness. When you're that committed to it, you're not going to take painkillers. You're not going to be on those kinds of prescription drugs. And he was against the pharmaceutical companies and the system. You know, he knew about a lot of things he wasn't supposed to be talking about.
He knew, yeah, exactly. He knew what was going on, and
he never ate his last meal either.
That led to his demise, right? He never,
yeah, the chef made him prepared a last meal for him, but they found it in his fridge after he had it was that day that he left, and later, a couple days they found it still in his fridge. He never ate it. So he wasn't poisoned by his chef or anything like that. For anybody who was thinking that from his chef, no, it's nothing like that. It's just purely a mystery until we start to look really deeper into what had been going on. And that's where we have to get into Warner Brothers.
Yes.
And the epic battle for his music rights. 1993, the whole reason he changed his name to The Symbol, right, was to get out of the clutches of Warner Brothers that had the rights to all his masters. So he changes his name to A Symbol, is able to breach that contract, acquires most of the rights. He didn't get all of them, you said, till a couple of years ago, right? He had the rights to the masters, I believe.
Yeah.
That was it.
Well, I saw that in an interview that he said that artists should have the rights to their own, like, I guess if they write their own, artists should have the rights to their own music.
Yes.
And it's not right for like companies like Warner Brothers to like own it, like take ownership of something that he put together. Yeah,
and if you think about it, I completely agree. It makes perfect sense. I mean, they pretty much act like they owned him, and he didn't want that feeling. You know, he felt like whatever he was producing wasn't his. They had to have a piece of everything that he was doing, which is kind of the same for every artist. Some just choose to deal with it and deal with it in worse ways.
Did you ever see those pictures of him where he has the word slave written across his cheek?
Yeah. That was right before the battle with Warner Brothers. Was it during it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's how he felt. He actually, in that same interview I was talking about, he said that we're all indentured servants.
Yeah. Well, we pretty much all are. The problem is most people aren't aware of it.
Right.
It'll take me a good amount of time to get that through in just a couple of minutes, but
I mean,
he was very aware of what's been going on behind the scenes, and we touch on a lot of different topics in a way to expose to you that almost every single significant thing that's been going on has something behind it that you're not quite told. And that's the point about it. And Prince was one of those celebrities that spoke out openly about it, and they didn't like that.
And because of that,
yeah. Jess, by the way, Jess here is all decked out in her purple clothing.
Yes,
just in honor of the celebrity.
The purple one today.
About. The purple one.
Well, that leads into 2008, that famous episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah, Jess, talk about The Simpsons, because I've seen that clip, and The Simpsons is pretty known, well, to a lot of people that look for the info. Simpsons has predicted a lot of events. 9/11, MJ's death, Prince's death. There's a lot of them in there. Trump. I mean, there's a lot of weird things that they put the episodes out back, like a little bit back, but they seem to be onto something. Jess looked into that and found some interesting things out. Jess, tell everybody about that.
Okay, so, all right, well, the 2008 episode of The Simpsons, Prince is murdered by Homer because Homer was hired by the industry execs to kill him because Prince didn't obey their rules. But I read that Matt Groening is kind of part of one of those like secret societies, and everything that
the creator of The Simpsons.
He's the creator of The Simpsons, and everything that they are like calling predictions on the show are actual plans, and the way that he's letting everybody know about it is through the show. And that show's been on for what, like 20 years now? I think
Since
it's like
88.
I think it's like the longest running television show like in history.
28 years.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah. So
actually, it's as old as I am. I was
Yeah,
88.
me too.
That's how I kind of know. I'm not 28 yet, but almost.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. And now it's almost to a point where, like, you know, it's like entertainment, but at the same time, now after everything's happened, it's like, wait a second, and now we have to all go back and look at
Yeah.
look at these episodes.
And look for these signs.
Right, because they were all there in the last 20 years. 20, almost 30 years. So
yes, in that scene where Homer he kills Prince with his guitar. The guitar that he had, did Prince always have a guitar like that? The one that was shaped like a symbol,
because it's
or was
on
that
one
the
of
new one?
No,
the newest one he just had. He just had a new guitar right before he died.
right. No, but I saw a picture of him where because Prince posed naked in a lot of things, and there was a picture of Prince naked holding a guitar just like that.
That one, but when was that put out?
Oh, it was a long time ago.
Okay. I was just wondering, yeah, because I saw that he had just gotten a new guitar, and I wasn't sure if he too much about his guitar. So I wasn't a devout Prince fan ahead of time, so I don't know tons about him as an artist exactly, but he's still an amazing person.
I mean, he paved
artist.
the way. Him and Michael Jackson kind of paved the way for
I'm definitely a bigger Michael Jackson fan, and that was again a link to very similar circumstances. His death, which we're not going to get into too much tonight, but we will go into it
a little bit. Okay.
On the Simpsons thing, though, it's funny you said that. There's a lot of stuff out there called predictive programming, they call it, where TV shows and movies will be talking about things way ahead of the time. And then suddenly in the future, they're like, oh, this was shown in this show. This was shown in this show back in the day. And this was shown in this movie back in the day. And they've been doing like 30, 40 years ago. They had similar things people thought were really far-fetched. And then today, we have some of that technology that they said would be impossible 30, 40 years ago. We have some things that we see that have happened that was considered way too futuristic and impossible. You know, the thought that we could have a GPS in the palm of our hand was unheard of years ago.
So going back to The Simpsons, the meaning of The Simpsons.
Of the episode?
No, of like the actual name of the show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so also like in the same article I read, like that CNN was just a short like abbreviation for Kanan. I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. All right. So The Simpsons were it's if you break it down, it's the Sims, and they were the Jews or the Arabs, and Simpsons mean the son of a Semite. And the people who run Hollywood have stolen the Semitic culture from the ancients, altered it, and use it as if it were their own, which is called, quote, grafting the tree.
Grafting the tree.
And it gets into like the article or the documentary that I saw just kind of went deeper and deeper into stuff that I wasn't necessarily relevant to this episode, so I didn't really like get into it, but it's just it's
interesting.
It's how they're able to predict.
Yeah. The symbolism concept is actually very interesting, and I think Prince also knew the power of symbols that they have on people just from seeing them.
Right.
Which is part of the reason he was very smart and made his own and what it represented. And but yeah, no, that is interesting, and there's a lot that comes up. I mean, so what? So what we're basically saying is that has a connection to the same sun god, Baal, Canaan, the same era that we were talking about in our holiday episode of the same religious holidays that Christians, Catholics, and Jews celebrate, mostly Catholics and Christians, that are actually celebrating the wrong days that aren't designated to the proper honor that we think that they are, or that people have been told they are. It still goes back to this same sun god Baal, who is the symbol of pretty much where Lucifer comes from, the devil. I mean, it all goes back to that. You know what I mean? So there's a guy named what's his name, who said something that was actually really, really interesting in here, and I have it somewhere and I can't seem to find it.
Well, I know that
Michael Snyder. Okay. Michael Snyder, he's an American business executive, and people know him a lot as an economic analyst. He predicts a lot of economic things, and he writes a lot of articles. Back in the 23rd of March, just this year, right after Prince died, but a month before, he was talking about, he wrote about the Temple of Baal coming to New York, and how they're supposed to be followed by hundreds more of these temples springing up around the world in coming years. And he's against it, but he's talking about it, how these rumors are circulating about this kind of thing happening. Now, I don't know if and when that's happening, but for someone to write about these kinds of things publicly that a lot of people know, it's pretty interesting. And another thing, Prince also died right on the Queen's birthday.
Yes.
That was another significant thing.
Yes.
111 days after the beginning of the year, And September 11th happened 111 days before the end of the year, and for some reason that was significant. The three.
There's also like a
numerology.
There's also like a 57 code with like with numerology. Yeah, because I saw something about like numerology in like New York and how it's like the numbers are like they equal like 666 or something like that. It's just weird. This is another. That's a whole other show.
Yeah,
so
but crazy though.
Some of the other rumors are that he was killed because he had just won the rights to his own music from Warner Brothers, but that actually happened 2 years ago.
Debunk.
That happened 2 years ago. He got the amount of money he got was not disclosed, but I guess so. Okay, so in April 18th, 2014, he resumed his contract with Warner Brothers and was able to get back the rights to his catalog. And almost exactly 2 years, almost 2 years to the day later,
suddenly
he's dead.
Well, since his death, income surged, millions and millions and millions of dollars. It's like right after he died. Everybody seems to want a piece of it. That's why I was saying there's a huge epic battle to find out over this estate.
Well, I mean, he had all these he had this vault that was opened up by his bank, but it was drilled open because the only person that knew about it was Prince.
And he had all of his sealed. He had all this sealed music that was never released in there.
Hidden. He hid it purposely from Warner Brothers. He could basically release an album every year for the next century. That's how much music he had, and at least 50 of those songs had music videos that went with them.
But he was smart. He was smart because he was prepping it and saving it for when he acquired all the rights to his music.
Right.
And they knew it. And he had everything ready to go. They would have made no money off of it. The higher ups, same thing, Warner Brothers would have made no money off of it. And just think about what that would have meant. We're about to get on the break here in just a minute. But you just have to think there's so much going on behind the scenes here.
Oh, this could be like 2 episodes, but we're gonna.
It's connected to so many things.
It's
so many dark things.
Well, this episode's gonna kind of branch off at the for future shows because there's bits and pieces of it that we're gonna be talking about in other shows.
Exactly. So everybody, if you want to call in, talk to us, call 702-425-9230. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you as well. Any comments. Use Skype name KCOR Radio, Twitter hashtag KCOR, and we will be back very shortly with the continuation of our special on Prince.
It's time to flip this iceberg and expose the truth.
This is gonna be good.
Welcome back to your daily dose of reality. To share your thoughts on the truth, call the KCOR Digital Radio Network at 702-425-9230.
Are you deaf?
That's 702-425-9230. Those around the world use Skype name KCOR Radio. Tweet your thoughts anytime to KCOR at KCOR Radio using hashtag KCOR. Enter the world of live chat at www.kcorradio.com.
Oh, that sounds dangerous.
Once again, it's time to cross that line of deception and bring you a reality check.
They're serious. They mean what they're saying.
With your mesmerizing hosts, Jessica Johns and Joey Mir.
Sold a lot more after he died too. This still sells.
Oh,
so
that's kind of what happens after,
Yeah, it is. It's to go in with the plan, but he But we were go back just to continue for where we were. We were getting into the value of Prince and his estate and everything. One of the things I wanted to jump on real quick was there's a lot of false claims that have been made for that estate. There was one by someone named Rodney Horatio Dixon. That was one that I got, saying that he's called in and said he was some sale and exclusive owner of all intellectual properties of Prince. But they dismissed that one as frivolous. But then you have this one woman who suddenly comes out and says that she's his half-sister. That just happened in the last day or two.
Right.
Darcel Gresham Johnston, filing documents asserting that she's a potential beneficiary of this estate. And the attorney didn't even return the call to comment on that, on anything about it. But that's what she's saying. We don't have any further updates on that.
I mean, when
yet.
you're worth that much money,
People are greedy.
Yeah.
People are greedy. You know, his music catalog alone, they say, is worth probably around $500 million.
Yeah.
And, you know, like we said, there's tons of the amount of unreleased albums and music he has is valued is pretty much in value. You can't even
you can't
give
put
it
a price
value.
on
You can't
it.
put a price.
So
priceless.
You know what I thought was really weird? Because like the day he died, I found out about it like immediately from TMZ. But
yeah.
But what was weird about it was it's like an hour after Prince's death. All right. TMZ had a complete backstory. Witnesses, photos, names, times, medical statements, and the likely cause of death. Like almost as if it was like right there. Like somebody had everything out for him or for TMZ and just handed it over.
Yeah, like it's all pre-planned, it's all pre-written. It seems like, you know, they were ready for it.
And again, like you said, like they tried to make him seem like he was a junkie and they tried to suggest that Prince died of AIDS. And then today, Harvey Levin actually posted a video of them talking about how the DEA is putting on an investigation now about like looking for possible doctors that were prescribing him or over prescribing him.
Yeah. Yet they didn't find any of these doctors.
To feed into more of the whole drug overdose thing. But again, if he kept his body as clean as he did, he didn't.
Yeah, I don't buy the opiate thing.
No.
I just won't. And there was another, the former bassist that played with him, Larry Graham. I saw a video of him talking in an interview, and he said he's been a longtime friend of Prince's. And he said he was tremendously happy in his faith. He never once saw Prince take any medications, and he was an extremely private person, as we know. But you know, for someone to be a close friend of bassist, that would be usually the first person that sees someone struggling with something.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure, I don't know how close he was to the half brother and half sisters who said a lot of strange things, but he was happy. He was a happy person. He wasn't depressed. He wasn't trying to kill himself. I don't want anybody to take in the suicide theory. That's crap. I don't, not to a minute, not to a T do I even believe that he killed himself.
No.
Accidental overdose, possibly, but unlikely that he was even taking any pain meds. I don't buy that either, because we've been talking about how clean he was. Then you have this guy, Dr. Howard Kornfeld, he was on, I guess people had called into this doctor, apparently, his close friends. They called right before Prince was about to die saying they needed an opiate counselor. It was an emergency for Prince. And they were apparently prepping to take him in. He was a opiate addiction specialist, and he was called in for an emergency, but it was apparently too late by the time he got there. Did you read anything about that? That was really interesting. This guy, Dr. Howard Kornfeld.
I just read that the last he was seen alive was 8 o'clock on April 20th, and then at 9:43 in the morning on April 21st, somebody arrived at his Paisley Park compound and found him in the elevator, and they called EMTs, and they got there by like 10 o'clock, and they tried to resuscitate him, and he was pronounced dead at like 10:07.
Just
which is weird about the elevator, but you know, we'll get into that in just a second. Finish your thought.
Right, yeah. Well, no, I mean, that was my thought. I was just explaining that the people, they do mention a doctor, but I don't want people to get confused. That wasn't a doctor Prince was seeing. That doctor had actually never actually met Prince. He was
like
supposed
a
to, apparently.
You know,
he was he's an opiate counselor for people addicted to opiates, which they're saying that Prince was, who was supposed to be seeing it.
See, it's like they're trying to feed us this whole thing, like,
yeah,
you know, to make Prince seem like he was a drug addict and he had AIDS and.
But why did this come
stuff
out 2 weeks later? Why didn't this opiate doctor come up right away? If he was planned to see that person right away, if they had all this other information that was ready to go right away, well, why didn't this doctor come up right away? Why didn't they talk about that? Well, That makes no sense. Little by little, they throw an extra piece of info out there, and it just keeps people scrambling and thinking about what the hell it could be. But it's just you can't. It's tough. It's tough to get through all the BS that these guys put out there.
But Prince, and again, like it's almost like everybody else. It's like everybody else is speaking for Prince, but Prince also was able, like you said, because he kept his body so as clean as he did, and because he meditated a lot. He was in tune more with what was going on around him, and he was able to predict his own death.
Right. Well, there were some interesting things about that, but he, like they said, his last Instagram message was just when you thought you were safe.
Yeah.
That was the last thing he put on Instagram. And then he was on the verge of. He
was on his Paisley Park. He did a performance, and he was playing chopsticks on one of his purple pianos.
Right. And then he says publicly in a statement to everybody there, he says, "Wait a few days before you waste any prayers for me." He said that within a couple of days before he died to the whole audience, and no one knew what it meant. But when you say stuff like that, I mean, he knew he was going to die.
Right.
And Michael Jackson also knew that he was going to die because his sister came through. Janet Jackson was talking about how before he died, he was talking for a while about I'm going to die soon. I know they're going to kill me. So he was talking about.
Right.
She says it in an interview.
Yeah.
Similar situations.
Right.
But yeah, no, that's just creepy stuff like that. I mean, think about it. It's so clearly been a setup.
Right.
Just look at all the information.
The whole elevator thing, because Prince didn't like elevators. He saw elevators. He told L.A. Reid, that elevators symbolized the devil. Okay, that the elevator was a metaphor for the struggle between good and evil, and if the devil tried to, quote, bring you down, you, quote, punch a higher floor. And that was from his song, Let's Go Crazy. So,
yeah. Did you see did you look up the lyrics of that song? It's actually really interesting. Did you catch any of it?
Yeah. Yeah, but I didn't write it down.
It's all right. Basically, in that song, he mentions elevator a lot as a form of symbolism, but it's just unique that he uses that. He says, "And if the elevator tries to bring you down, go crazy, punch a higher floor.
Right.
Maybe it's 'cause we're all going to die. You better live now before the Grim Reaper come knocking on your door." And he mentions this elevator, and it kind of will give you the chills a little bit because he talks about it so much, and the way he uses it in the song is pretty interesting, as if he had known for quite a while.
Yeah.
That an elevator had something to do with.
So it was almost out of spite that he was if he was found in the elevator and if he was actually murdered, they did it out of spite. Like the Illuminati did it out of spite.
Yeah, right. When you're going to bring the Illuminati up, it's going to get us onto some really interesting topics here.
Right, because of
Warner Brothers and
and
let me quickly jump into the darker side of what's going on here, because we really have a lot of things to talk about.
Yes.
Today, Warner Brothers announced it will re-release 9 of Prince's biggest albums on vinyl, starting with 1985's Around the World in a Day, starting on June 21st. It's also interesting they keep releasing this on very, very specific days that mean a lot to the planet, the sun god days, right?
Yes.
April 20th, 21st.
Oh my
What is that?
God.
What is that? That's the spring equinox.
Right.
And then June 21st is like the first day of summer, the vernal equinox.
Right.
They keep happening on very significant days that all attribute to the sun god.
They're big on anniversaries too.
They're big on it for a reason. These are planned. It's cultic. It's ritualistic when they do these things. So they start on June 21st with 1 or 2 albums, a month to follow afterward. That's what they're planning. Now, this project, though, to release these started in conjunction with Record Store Day. It was already in the works before Prince died for them to release these vinyl. Now, it could be possible he was part of the plan. I can't say that that Prince wasn't part of that plan, but it's just quite interesting that they were planning this right before he dies, and they're still re-releasing these vinyl songs.
Right.
And the entire reason Prince turned his name into the symbol in that legal battle, it's all tied into the same thing.
Yeah.
It all ties into the same thing. And we were going to get into his interview on
chemtrails. Well, because I mean, even, and he said, and I agree with this, because even when I was a kid, okay, because he said, you know, I'd look up at the sky when I was a kid, I'd look up at the sky and think, oh, cool, a jet just flew by, but then I'd see another one, and the next thing you know, like, people are fighting with each other and they don't know why. And I also remember, like, as a kid, I used to think that was really cool when they would leave like lines in the sky. Like, I thought that was really neat. But, you know, when you're little, things like that are really neat. But
well, it's still neat to watch.
At the end of the day, we
know what it is.
Now we know what it is, and he knew, and again, like, Prince knew way too much. So, Joey, brief us on chemtrails.
Chemtrails are interesting, and this is something that we have to go through pretty quickly because you can go off on this forever. It's something that a lot of people just don't want to believe in, and I understand why, because it's a horrifying thought, but it's pretty much a phenomenon, and that where these planes, the smoke that they're putting out there into the atmosphere is specifically out there to create man-made clouds that not only block sunlight, which is our main source of vitamin D, which is one of the strongest vitamins for your immune system, but it's to also prevent us from being able to grow our own sustainable crops and pretty much end anybody's private farming, so that we are forced to eat and consume only genetically modified
and be
ingredients.
Dependent on that.
And dependent on that, and that's pure crap. If it's man-made, it's crap. Okay? What this would do is it would kill billions due to aluminum and barium poisoning, due to crop failures and worldwide famine. It can cause heart attacks, strokes, cancers. It will cause stillbirths, miscarriages, infertility. The sprays have fungi, bacteria, viruses, desiccated red blood cells, crystalline substances, carbon, metals, lithium, lots of heavy metals, and who knows whatever the hell else. It's I mean, there's been years of biowarfare testing on the American public. It shouldn't be that much of a secret, but they spray this stuff into the sky, and what it does is it mutates due to the ultraviolet light. And again, you got to think of the people behind this they're masterminds, they're geniuses that create this stuff, but it really is weather manipulation. And you have to look at how strange the weather's been all over the world in the last decade. I mean, even more than that, but especially all these tsunamis are coming up, you know, hurricanes are going crazy. Weather's odd. I mean, we've been getting tons of rain in Vegas, and
I know, we almost had our own lost city of Atlantis, like, right? It was like weird. It was like right when we were doing the show, like that whole week, it was just like
flooding
so
everywhere.
Much rain.
Yeah, which means I guess it means we're on track here.
Did you see what Herod wrote on Facebook? Like, he posted a video of the link, the lake, and he's like, they should just change the name of the link parking lot to the lake at the lake.
Lake parking lot.
Yeah, like the lake.
Yeah, it was bad, but that's apparently normal for Vegas.
Right.
But for it to happen as much as it's been happening, is it?
It's weird.
And in New York, it's still cold as hell. I was just talking to my mom yesterday, and she was telling me it's still cold as all hell in New York, and it's not usually like that this far in. It's like it's May 4th.
Well, that, you know, a couple years ago, my grandmother died, and so I had to go to Michigan for her funeral, and it was actually May 3rd. And for the funeral, and I brought all summer clothes with me, and that was a mistake.
Yeah, it was cold.
It was still cold. And then the very next day, and then like I flew after the funeral, I flew back here and was at the pool, you know. But it was like, I was like, it's May, it shouldn't be this cold.
It shouldn't be. It's weird.
It everywhere. Like, that's just the weather has just been so crazy.
And anywhere you look, and people will tell you that if that has at least lived there for a decade at least, or more than a decade, I'd say even, but still, if you've been living somewhere, you can tell weather patterns have changed. That's part of what this does.
Didn't what's his face release? What was that guy's name that released that video or released that documentary about what's his name? Al?
I don't know. Think about it.
You know what I'm talking about. Remember, he was all about like the ozone and
Al Gore?
Yes, Al
You
Gore.
couldn't think of Al Gore?
I don't know.
I was like, who's that dude? The dude that was running for president?
Yes.
You know, you don't remember that guy? Yeah, it's Al Gore, slightly known.
Yeah.
Just a slightly known guy. Yeah, he's part of, I don't like Al Gore. Let's put it to that way.
I mean, me either, but like he
puts out the whole, the green energy and all this stuff, and says that, what are they calling it? That a global warming.
Right.
They're
global
causing
warming. That's
global warming.
Yes.
It's not
okay.
It's not us. It plays a piece in it, but What are they doing this for? What are they doing this for? I was talking about genetically modified seeds that can only grow in electromagnetic soup, and they don't want people to be able to grow their own crops, and it's all a ploy for this. Deprive people of vitamin D, one of our most nourishing vitamins.
Right.
This is, but Prince knew all about, I mean, to go back to the whole reason we got into this, Prince knew all about these plants for what they're doing. You know, they don't want organic, they don't want vegetarians and vegan, they don't want that. And if you're going to be a vegetarian, they want you to eat the crap they grow, and the crap they grow doesn't have the right nutrients in it. It isn't properly grown. It's crap for your body. The body doesn't take it in, and it destroys your liver and your kidneys, and slowly, very slowly, just like all the stuff we're eating every day, diminishes your immune system. And I was telling you that I learned about vitamin K too. We're going to do an episode. I have a friend that does a lot on non-GMO.
Yeah.
We're going to do an episode on non-GMO health and the importance of it in the future. We will do that. We'll get more into this kind of thing.
And we'll do like chemtrails. We're going to do Illuminati stuff. Like,
health, nutrition. There's a lot.
Like every piece, every like random like piece of information from like different things where we're going to definitely get into for future shows.
There's just so much to talk about. You can't just... Like, I even went on a tangent here with chemtrails for like 5 minutes already, and there's so much more that I could go into. But we want to move a little bit on to what else do you have there, Jess?
I basically just have, because we kind of already went into Ray Roberts and his chef and how like it just he was drinking a lot of like. He drank a lot of juices and smoothies and stuff, which when I have a stomach ache and when my throat hurts, that's all I drink too when I'm sick. That's all I drink.
But it still doesn't make sense when you're drinking that stuff. If you're taking painkillers, it's kind of counterproductive.
Exactly. So it's just nothing. None of this makes any sense at all. No.
Did you? Oh, this is an interesting fact with numbers. In 3 days after he died, his album sales surged by 42,000%. So he sold 1,400 records within 3 days before his death, and then 579,000 right after his death. I mean, yes, the death will spark that. He's all over the news. I understand, but who made the money off of those sales? Well, the estate did, but no one knows who's getting the estate, right?
Right.
And we were just talking about this with Tina, with our production manager here, that it's very unlikely. Prince was very smart. It's very unlikely he did not have a will, and what we're predicting is that sometime in the next 6 months...
He probably does. They're going to find one.
They're going to find it.
Because he's a very smart...
Well.
Yeah, he's very, very, very smart because he probably didn't want, it to fall on...
He knew they'd ransack his house.
Oh,
he
yeah.
knew, yeah.
And I'm sure he doesn't want it to fall into the wrong hands because, he is worth so much.
A lot.
So much money. It's like not even funny. Like,
no, it's not. It's not funny at all, actually. If you think about,
no, it's not. Like he's worth a serious amount of money, and for him to know what he knows and be able to like kind of predict his own death and everything like that, like, he had to have a will. It's like they said that he doesn't, but that's only because it hasn't been found.
Yeah, that just means because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. There's a very important thing I learned a long time ago. Yeah, yeah,
had to.
Yeah, I know. Miss Paranormal over here. But there was another thing a lot of people may not know about him when he wore those eyeglasses.
Okay,
with the
yes,
third
I was
eye
waiting for you to get into
glasses.
that and the whole. Tell everybody how that with the purple.
Yeah, so he wore the whole concept of purple. Just because we're getting low on time here, I didn't realize how quick the hour flew by tonight. But if you know anything about the third eye, anybody who's spiritual, anybody who knows about chakras and meditates and is spiritual, I've learned a lot more about this recently. I've become a little more of a spiritual person, so I really know a lot more about what this stuff means. And the third eye sunglasses, it's your pineal gland in your brain. That's what the third eye is. So Prince knew all about that. I mean, this is why he had the ability to sense certain things, able to have out of body experiences whenever he wanted, able to access his higher conscious mind, and able to see things that other people can't see. Well, you can see it. People can see it, but you have to be able to tap into that part of your mind that they don't want you to know about. That is real. Please, people, Google pineal gland and do research on what that is. It is real in your brain, not made up. It's everywhere. It's anatomy.
I have one important point to make because Prince was actually getting ready to release a 50-page manuscript detailing his findings in the entertainment industry and those behind it now, and how they influence our government. So he's getting ready to release a book.
There you go.
You know, like that.
Well, I mean, geez, I didn't even know about that one.
Yeah,
that's a kick in the head right there.
Yeah, I mean,
so I wonder if that someone will still finish that. I hope somebody does. But but another thing on that third eye that he wore those sunglasses for a reason. Purple, the color purple is very significant. It's not just that he used it in Purple Rain. There's a reason he wore a lot of it. And every chakra in spirituality has a color associated with it. And they're all the colors of the electromagnetic spectrum of the rainbow. So you have red, orange, blue, indigo, yellow, violet. I think those are something like that. Red, orange, Roichi Babe, that's it. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, indigo. Yeah, there's 7.
Tina's laughing at me because I just pulled that one
there
right
There
out.
you go. Good job. That one you knew. And that's when when the sunlight hits it's if you've ever seen the album by Pink Floyd.
Yep.
Okay. That symbol of the light striking the prism, and then the 7 pieces of colored light straying from it. That's where this spirituality comes. Every color has an energy, and the color for the third eye is purple/indigo. So that has to do with his spirituality right there. There's a reason he was all about purple.
So there's our whole Prince episode. But before we run out of time, I did want to say this, and it's completely off subject, but tomorrow is Cinco de Mayo. And tomorrow we're calling it Cinco de Chayo because we have Cinco de Mayo for like 5 days. And tomorrow I will be on a beer cart. Yay! Sporting a bikini. Yay!
Oh, God.
It's at 4
There's going to be a lot of Facebook
So-
selfies, so brace yourselves.
Yes, there's a lot of them. So if anybody's in the Link area or the Promenade or the Vegas area, come stop by. Come see me and Joey. Joey will be serving tables. And
All right,
I'll be
guys.
on a cart. So we'll see you guys all next week.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so
tuning in.
much.
Stand by.
You've been listening to Reality Check, the one show that doesn't prepackage and spin the truth as propaganda. Hosted by Jessica Johns and Joey Mirabella.